グリザイアの果実。
Bonjour watcher, this is Johnny Banger 45 and welcome back to the Flow of Grisaia. In the last episode, we still another flashback. Not another flashback, we still in the flashback scene.
続きからよ。
So let's see how they're going to go out from there. Yeah, let's see.
どこまで見たかしら。ああ、そうそう。金田さん、あなた子供の頃に虐待を受けたことは？
ないわ。
母親に床に落とされたことも？
ない。
だったらシャシは今回の事故が原因ね。大丈夫、治るらしいから。はい、次の方。
Kazuki continued her examination along these lines, eventually working her way through all of the girls, even though we know a parent injury.
今の子で最後ね。軽い打ち身で内出血してる子もいたけど、ほとんどが軽傷ね。
一番の重傷はやっぱり広岡さんね。左肩への脛骨と腓骨が切損、右足は大腿骨の遠位骨が複合骨折。両方とも閉鎖骨折だから細菌感染の心配はないし、一応骨は固定してみたけど病院に連れて行かないとダメね。
あとは桜井さんのお腹も。
ああ、傷口が大きいから重傷に見えるけど内臓には届いていないし、縫合は済ませたから大丈夫よ。ただ感染症が心配ね。できれば病院で抗生物質を投与した方がいいわ。とりあえずやれるだけのことはやったと部長に報告しておいて。
私が報告するの？
当たり前でしょ。そのためにあなたをお医者さんごっこに付き合わせたのだから。同じ言葉で状況を説明しても誰の口から出たかで印象は変わるでしょ。きっと私の報告なんか信じないわよ、あの部長。
But the last thing we needed was Kazuki hushed down setting off a fight.
部長には先生には部長から説明してくださいって言っておいて。その程度の手柄は与えておかないと拗ねられても面倒なだけだし。
またそうやって余計なことを言う。
これでも随分と遠慮しているつもりなのだけれど。
Oh, I think she has some disease, if I'm not mistaken.
風見さん？
At that moment, I realized something for the first time. Kazuki's face was flushed red. Her brain was dry and she was sweating heavily.
どうしたの？なんだか顔色が悪いけど。
これよ。
Kazuki raises her left arm as she spoke, revealing it to be heavily swollen and purple.
ちょっと、これどうしたの？
折れてはいないようだけどひびは入っているみたい。いわゆる不全骨折というやつね。
その左腕ってまさかバスの中で私が踏んでいた場所？私のせいで？
事故の直前にとっさにシートベルトを腕に巻きつけて衝撃に備えたせいよ。ただでさえ負荷がかかっているところにあなたに踏んづけられてとどめを刺したのだとしても、そもそもあなたのせいで事故が起きたわけではないでしょ。
それはそうだけど、でも私があなたを下敷きにしてしまったから。
気にしすぎよ。それとももし私があなたのせいだとわめき散らしたら、あなたは自分の腕を切り落として私にくれるの？
ごめんなさい、それは無理。
だったら気にしないことね。私も気にしていないわ。落ち込まないでよ。本当に気にしていないから。どうしよう。もう少し優しく言った方が良かったのかしら。
大丈夫なの？
痛いわよ。でも泣くほどではないし、泣いて痛みを紛らわせるほど子供でもないわ。
ごめんなさい。
あなた、自分を罰してくれる人がいないと落ち着かないタイプ？まあいいわ。 だったらこの左腕のことは貸しにしておいてあげる。
貸し？
そう。叱る時に望まれればあなたは私の命令を拒否できない。それで許してあげる。
That's the promise when she used it to make Amane get out of there alive.
今言ってくれればすぐに従うのに。
嫌よ。いい？貸しっていうのはね、返してもらわない方が大きな利益を生むのよ。覚えておきなさい。心配しないでいいのよ。私も別にお友達から高い利子を巻き上げようとは思わないから。
Kazuki's expression as she spoke those words was kind of artificially perfect smile, suggesting a kind of maturity way beyond her late years. As I watched her face, I felt sticky sweat sweeping out of the back of my head. Did I really just put myself at the mercy of a person like this? Our basketball team's advisor, Mr. Ochi Yoshihiko, radiant cautiousness 30 minutes later. After hearing a brief summary of the situation for Captain Sakashita, Mr. Orochi called for all the survivor students and had a seat on the ground together.
そもそも事故の原因は何だったのですか？
Oh no, Kazuki's left hand. Oh no. And we have some stupid student here, which is Shita. I don't know what your name. And there's one kid, not one kid, one student there. Cannot. Let's continue. Just as we were still in the classroom, Captain Sakashita raises her right hand as she spoke. At her nearly accusatory tone, a young teacher and the driver of the bus wrinkled in his face into something very close to a scowl. Oh, the driver is not dead? Where's the driver?
わからん。急にハンドルが取られて、慌ててブレーキをかけたが止まりきれずにそのまま崖下に転落した。おそらくはパンクだろう。
では、パンクの原因は何ですか？
俺が知るわけないだろう。俺は今目が覚めたばかりなんだぞ。
大きな声を出さないでください。みんな不安なんです。先生がそんなことでは。
Oh, Ochi is the sensei, right? I don't know.
わかっている。
A worthless argument along these lines continued for a good 10 minutes. The situation being what it was, nobody tried to bite in or calm things down. We all sat there and wait for things to run their course. Watching our teacher and captain bellowing at each other meaninglessly, a few girls began to cry from sheer anxiety. The captain seized on that fact as a new line of attack. In that place, filled with gloom and dominated by angry voice, Kazami Kazuki smiled brightly, drew her face close and began to whisper in my ears.
やあね。どんな時でも自分以外の責任が確立しないと落ち着かないのかしら。今は原因や責任の所在より話し合うべき重要なことがもっとたくさんあると思わない？
True enough, but I couldn't understand what she expected to accomplish by murmuring this to me. It wasn't like I had the ability to redirect the discussion, complaining was going to get us anyway. If anything, there was a good chance this might make the situation even worse.
そこ、こそこそと何を話しているの？
See, I told you so. When you get spotted gripping in the shadows, of course you're going to get told off. As I hesitated, searching for some kind of excuse, Kazuki raised her right hand and asked for permission to speak.
パンクの原因ですが、おそらくは廃材を積んだトラックの荷台から何か鋭利な金属片のようなものが落ちて、それを私たちのマイクロバスの前輪が踏んだのだと思います。
根拠はあるの？
バスのタイヤを見てください。
As directed by Kazuki's words, everyone present turned to look at the tires of the overturned bus. The front wheels on the right side was nearly torn around its circles and cracked into a two-vehicle house.
そう。例えば尖った金属の板のようなものを踏んでしまい、そのまま車体のどこかに引っかかって回転するタイヤを連続で傷つけ続けた結果、最後にタイヤが破裂したのではないかと。
Watching Kazuki explain her children with words and gestures, the majority of us felt the pieces fall into the place. It makes sense.
今時の車のタイヤは釘を踏んだ程度なら一瞬で空気が抜けてしまうことはないそうですが、金属片でタイヤを裂かれてしまえばどうしようもないわ。またそんなものを踏んづけた先生が悪いわけでもない。たとえタイヤが裂けてパンクしても直線道路であったら安全に止まることはできたはず。あえて何が悪かったのかというのを決めるのであれば、カーブの途中でタイヤが破裂したという運のなさが一番悪いわ。 そんな悪運の中にあってここにいる私たちは少なくとも命だけは助かった。今は
こんな状況で私たちに何ができると？
絶望しないための努力なんてどうかしら。つまり前向きな希望探しの話し合いなんて素敵じゃないかと私は思うのだけれど。
Rather than grieving over your poverty, fantasize about what you will buy if you win the lottery. You'll sleep better at night. That was Kazuki's argument in a nutshell. Although if she said it outright, it was obvious she had angered the captain. And so as Kazuki requested, I took my notebook in one hand and repeated the details of our situation to the group. We were surrounded by a dense of trees without so much as an animal trail running through it. The cliffs hung over us like an overturned mortal bow, making a climb back to the road impossible. And our cell phones couldn't find a signal. To escape alive, our only option was to walk away from the road and into the forest, but probably because of the meteorite that fell nearby, there seems to be a dense deposit of metal scattered throughout the area. And thanks to this pocket of concentrated magnetic material, our compasses would be of no use. It seems plausible that this strange hole with its overhanging walls had been gored into the earth by the impact of that meteorite. The bedrock of the walls had turned to a glass under the assault of momentary high temperature. Even reading out this dry, factual summary of our situation from the notebook was enough to drain my spirits. Where exactly were we supposed to find hope in any of this?
こうなってしまえば下手に動き回っていたずらに体力を消耗するよりおとなしく救助を待った方がいいわね。
はい、それが最善かと。
Although I wanted to escape this disturbing place as quickly as possible, there was no guarantee that any of us would return the night if we wandered out aimlessly now. Continuing the investigation of our surroundings until most of the part presented itself while waiting for the arrival of the rescue seems the wisest choice by far. I felt a wave already washed through my body at the captain's decision.
あら、それはどうかしら。
I looked behind me with a start. Kazuki, the very person who showed me onto this little stage, had spoken those words. Kazuki, the very person who had told me to explain things clearly and logically so no one act rashly, had disrupted the discussion just as we were beginning to reach a consensus. I couldn't begin to understand why I glanced at her face with an irrepressible frown.
どういう意味かしら？何か反論でも？
Yes.
ええ、確かに下手に動き回ったところで生還できるという保証はどこにもない。けど待っていれば助けが来るという保証もどこにもありません。
それぐらい私にも分かっているわ。一生ここで助けを待つつもりはないけれど、十分な調査もしないまま密林に踏み込むのは自殺行為だとは思わなくて？
十分な調査とは何をもって十分と判断するのですか？食料どころか飲み水すら潤沢ではないこの状況で腰を据えて考えている余裕があるとは思えません。それならいっそ気力と体力が充実している今のうちに腰を上げるべきかと愚行しますが。
それは本当に愚行よね。私たちのような素人が考えるほど山は甘くないわ。私の判断が気に入らないのならどうぞあなたを一人で森に入られて結構よ。
口が過ぎたようです。申し訳ありません。
わかればいいのよ。
If it was unexpected to raise Kazuki raised an objection in the first place, it was just surprising to see her withdraw her opinion so easily. Still holding my silence, I asked Kazuki a question with my case. What was that all about? In response to my glance, Kazuki returned her own wordless answer with a movement of her eyes and a jerk of her chin. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
それでは次に私たちがするべきはベースキャンプの確保になります。横転したバスから使えそうな道具を持ち出す作業に取り掛かるというのはどうでしょう？
そうね、そうしましょう。では手分けをして作業に取り掛かります。それでよろしいですね、先生。
ああ、そうしよう。
After that, we were divided with the group collecting things from the bus and the group responsible for sorting those items and preparing to erect our tents. We set about our work in silence. I was assigned to the collection team because of my study in physics, which meant I was stuck with the job of crawling into the overturned bus and drag out whatever luggage I could find. The work itself was that difficult in the physical sense, but inside the bus, the bodies of the two girls who had died instantly were still untouched. And every time I passed, I couldn't help but see resentment in their faces. Chewing my lower lip, I forced out a willpower to go on. Although I was conscious of it, the sting of my nose built with every trip. Why did they interact on the bus or by acting of that with the exception of the personal belongings of the dead? Probably because I don't pass the corpses so many times now, I have grown somewhat used to their expressions of bitter regret. Or maybe it would be more accurate to say that my emotions has been paralyzed. And so I joined my hand before the body of Shikanai Tsukasa seen by Julius.
どう？急に大きな声を出さないでちょうだい。耳が切なくなるわ。
かずみさん、びっくりした。急に声をかけないでくれる？
急ではない声のかけ方ってあるの？
なんなの？何か用？
手が空いたから死体から私物を剥ぎ取るのを手伝いに来たのよ。
何？
その言い方はどうだろう。
どうせ聞こえちゃいないわよ。もう一体は？
あっち2年の小沢先輩。
小沢？ああ、自己管理のできていない体型をした人ね。
どうして素直に太ってるって言わないの？
そんなことを言ったら彼女が傷つくじゃない。
どうせ聞こえちゃいないわよ。
まあ、なんて罰当たりな。
あなたがそれを言う？
私は毎週日曜日の朝には教会に行くわよ。
本当に？そっか。私は笑えばいいの？
もう遅いわよ。デブの先輩は私に任せて、あなたはその荷物持って外に出ていなさい。
デブって。
Katsuki was a truly elusive person. At times she reverses herself with dizzying speed. Had she seen that I was depressed and turned to this black humor to make me smile?
あ、そういえば。さっきはどうして急に部長に反論を？あんなの予定になかったじゃない。
ああ、あれね。あなた、あの時の部長の顔を見た？
見たけど。
あなたの口から状況説明を聞いているうちは良かったのだけれど、あなたが会話の主導権を握り始めた途端に不機嫌な顔になったのよ。だからあの人がおかしな反発意識を持つ前に私が反論してみせたのよ。私が口を挟めばあの人は当然噛みついてくるだろうし、その上で私を言いまかしたとなればしばらくは機嫌も良くなるだろうしね。
じゃあわざと？
もしあの場で私が口を挟まなければ、食べ物が心もとなくなる3日後ぐらいには値を上げて脱出しましょうと言い出すかもしれないでしょ。でも私の意見を押しのけて通した意見を覆すとなれば、私の意見が正しかったと認めることになる。
I apologize. The captain's obstinacy toward Katsuki had become a powerful reason for her to keep us where we were.
そこまで考えて。
長いスパンで見れば負けることで得る利益もあるということよ。こんな状況では一瞬先の自分すら想像できないかもしれないけれど、10日後の自分を想像して行動しなさい。
私、あなたのそばにいると息が詰まりそうだわ。
そう？でも短くもたった一度の人生よ。一人ぐらい天才と知り合いになっておくのも悪くないわよ。
天才か。っていうか、自分で自分を天才って言っちゃうんだ。
人に言われると腹が立つけどね。あなただって人にバカだと言われれば腹は立つのに、自分のことを私バカだからと言って相手を油断させるでしょ。
実際バカだもの。
あら、あなたはバカじゃないわよ。本当のバカっていうのはね、天才を敵に回す人のことを言うの。
私たちって確かお友達だったよね。
そう。あなたのそういう頭の回転の速さは私気に入っているわよ。
恐縮です。
What the heck? Gee, seriously. I must be something like a toy to her. I did feel discomfort at the effortless control she had over me, but I'm sure Katsuki knew as well. As I did that, I would have opposed her in the end. That realization was irritating in its own right, but truthfully, by this point I got myself so aggravated I felt like smiling instead. Giving a loud of surrender, I turned my attention back to stripping the dead girl of her possessions. It took an hour to retrieve all the camping gear and personal belongings from the overturned bus, but now we had to face a difficult question. What do we do about the two bodies still inside the bus? That was the problem. Somebody raised the idea of having everybody carried out together, but considered the cramped interior of the bus, it was impossible for all of us to participate. Someone else suggested that we should leave them be rather than clumsily dragging them around, but like Kazuki's was, it's hard today, isn't it? How long does it take for a corpse to begin rotting? I wondered. The idea was instantly abandoned. Finally, everyone gathered there felt silent. Our pleading glances settled on only one man present, Mr. Ochi. Later, Mr. Ochi made sex with all of the students. Just kidding. And after a few minutes, when he places his hand on his knees and stood with the words, "I will do it," every one of us breathed a sigh of pure relief. Yeah, they don't want to hide the cost. Having entered the overturned bus alone, Mr. Ochi emerged with Shikanai body cradled in his arm. The only one who witnessed that moment was Kazuki, Captain Shara, and me. The others cast their eyes to the ground or turned away, avoiding the sight of their acquaintance's corpse. Probably because the sight was a distillation of a pitiless reality. To see that moment, we had men facing the truth they wanted so desperately to forget. To be honest, when I was collecting luggage from the bus, I had placed a hand on cigarette with the thought of the getting outside. Started to learn exactly how cool a human body could become when its blood stopped flowing. I withdrew my hand instantly. I hadn't felt this kind of shock when I touched my grandmother's body in the casket at her funeral. Grandma's death, which I know would come eventually, wasn't near that cold to the touch. Touching this girl's death, a death I could view with composure, resignation, turned my spine to ice. I didn't even want to feel that way ever again. Watching the removal of the bodies in solace, I reflexively brought my hands together and began to pray for the dead. From my eye, I could hear whispering voices. That body, what do we do with it now? Burying it somewhere, I guess. Can we just do that? When we rescue war from a family we met, we can't assume help will arrive right away. We can't just leave it like this. It's summers after all. Apparently, sensing our anxiety, Mr. Ochi decided to bury the three bodies some ways away. Is that true? A breakdown song. I'm really bored with this song. Apparently, sensing our anxiety, Mr. Ochi decided to bury the three bodies some ways away. Are you sure he's going to bury? At the very least, it wouldn't do to leave them where we could see them. Practically speaking, we watched those concerts right before our eyes. We would have put our mental health at risk. In a situation like this, panic is the greatest enemy. For the same reason, we decided it would be the best if none of us acted alone. We paired off it into units of two. To put it nicely, the idea was to establish a dynamic of mutual support. But when they got to the heart of the matter, we were supposed to watch each other like hawks for signs of abnormal behavior. If one member of the pair causes problem, what would hell responsible? Well, I've been 80% sure it would turn out this way from the moment I do hear about the rule. Kazami Kazuki named me her partner, and the look on her face saying it was the most natural thing in the world.
というわけだから、これからもよろしくね。
As she spoke, Kazuki moved to show me her left arm now wrapped in a sling. Her meaning was clear now. My arms was disabled thanks to you, so it's only natural that you pick out the slack for me, right? I didn't have any objection to acting as a unit with Kazuki. Judging from her words and actions so far, she was intelligent and knowledgeable. If I follow her lead, things shouldn't go wrong. Even so, I couldn't quite repress my feelings. Something like dissatisfaction or maybe confusion. Above all, I was tired of dancing so obediently on the strings.
いじめ目的以外で私を選んだ理由があるのなら聞かせてもらえないかな。
Hara, I never bully you.
いじめるために選んだのよ。文句があるなら聞いてあげる。対処はしないけれど。
何？
それって言うだけ無駄じゃない。
ストレスは減るわよ。長生きしようと思ったら溜め込まない方がいいわ。特に今のような状況ではね。
ああ、そう。
他に何か質問は？
私をいじめて楽しい？
不思議。どうして聞きたくもない答えを聞きたがるのかしら。はっきりと言葉にしないと興奮しないタイプ？言いにくいから遠回しに言うけど、あなた神聖の魔女よ。
聞くんじゃなかったわ。
大丈夫。私は神聖のサディストだから、きっとうまくいくわ、私たち。
With those words, Kazuki held out her uninjured right arms towards me. Unable to immediately understand the meaning of her gesture, I stared blankly back to her face.
あなたも手を出してくれないと、私一人では握手はできないわ。
あ、そうか、握手ね。風見さんに握手なんて一般的な概念があったことに驚きだわ。
私のことは和樹さんでいいわ。あなたのことはあまねちゃんでいいかしら。
Why I call you Amane-chan? Why I must call you Kazuki-san?
え？うん。
それじゃ改めてよろしくね、あまねちゃん。
こちらこそよろしく、和樹ちゃん。
I greeted Kazuki, outstretched his hand with as much force as I could muster. Her hands were so small, it felt like I could quite literally crush it if I squeezed hard enough. And yet even then, when all I could see ahead of us was uncertainty and danger, I had a feeling that small hand would save me. Oh, it's evening now.
テントと食料を配給します。
Striding her way to an unsteady foothold above us, the captain shouted in a voice that resounds off the walls of rock. At her feet, the food and camping equipment we had dragged out of the bus were piled in a heap.
テントは2人で1つ、寝袋は1人に1つ。食料はとりあえず3日分を配給します。決して十分な量とは言えませんが、各自節約を心がけ、3日間持たせること。
In the dark clouds of bad luck, that was our bus accident. Our meager silver lining of good fortune was that we had been returning from the camping trip. Among the luggage we collected from the bus, there was a variety of camping equipment, as well as leftover ingredients from the meal we made the day before. There were 4 tents designed for the 3 occupants and 1 large tent made for 6. Kazuki and I took one of the smaller tents, 2 sleeping bags, and a mat for both of us. Our rations for the 3 days period were distributed to us in a garbage bag.
現在17時14分。18時までにテントの設営を済ませ、18時半には各自夕食を済ませてください。それ以降は自由時間としますが、勝手な行動をとって周囲に迷惑をかけないようにしてください。わかりましたか？
As she spoke, the captain glanced briefly around the hall, then brought her gaze to a halt on Kazuki, who was standing at my side. That last understood was probably directed at her in particular. Did she not notice Captain Sakashita's hostile attitude? Did she notice and play down on purpose? Whatever the case.
はーい。
Kazuki answered in a high-pitched, girly tone that seems to originate from her nose.
やあね、何をあんなにピリピリしているのかしら。
風見さん、そんな声出せたんだ。気持ち悪。
もう、あなたまでそんなことを言うの？別に嫌いな子にどう思われようとなんとも思わないけど、あなたにまでそんな風に思われたら、私だって傷つくのよ。
ごめんなさい。
じゃあ罰としてあなたがテントを張ってくださる？
もともとそのつもりだったし。
代わりに夕食の準備は私がします。やったことはないけど。食材は人参に玉ねぎにじゃがいも。これって明らかに昨日作ったカレーの食材の余りよね。カレー粉もあるけど少ないわね。どうしよう。
待って貴重な食材なのよ。大丈夫なの？
まあ料理なんて煮るか焼くか蒸すかでしょ。きっと簡単よ。
いや、いい。私がやるから任せて。
でもあなたにはテントを。
いいのよ。私こう見えても一応実家が料理屋だから料理にはちょっと自信あるし。
そう？でもなんか悪いわ。あなたばかり働かせて。
じゃあテントを張り終わったら一緒に料理しましょう。手伝ってくれる？
あ、それはいいわね。なんだか仲のいいお友達って感じで。
でしょ？
ところであなた、お塩を使わない料理ってできる？
どういう意味？
言葉の通りだけれど。
お塩ならあるじゃない。ほら。
だからそれをできるだけ使わないでほしいのだけれど。無理？
まあ無理ではないけど、お塩がないと美味しくないよ。
その辺は我慢しましょうね。
いいけど。
After erecting our tents, I gave saltless cooking a try as Kazuki requested. I thought we were going to eat this dinner together later. Amane will get scolded, you know. Alright, about Amane, I want to say this one word. She looks freaking ugly in this. During the flashback, she looks freaking ugly. Why she tie her hair like that? I don't know why. Okay, I done express my anger. Cooking the onion in the fry pan, I mixed them with smashed steamed potatoes and flavored in the mix of white pepper. Then mold it into an oven and bake it in butter, pretty much making up as I went along. What would you even call this thing? A potato burger? A croquet without a meat or sauce? Anyway, kind of an unorthodox result. Although I was frankly a little wary myself, it was pretty good when I actually ate it, and Kazuki also happily praised the taste. By some mysterious psychological process, I found that Kazuki's praise motivated me to try hard next time as well. Ridiculously as it may sound, I'm fairly sure I was beginning to genuinely like this girl named Kazami Kazuki. When the sun sets, the sultry heat and humidity of the day vanished quickly, giving way to a chilly night. Noticeably, I hadn't entered my tent yet. My agitation from this overwhelming barrage of events hadn't yet cooled, so I wasn't exactly sleepy. And I think I may have still been slightly resistant to the idea of entering that tent alone with Kazami Kazuki. When I looked up, there was a slight silver of moonlight working its way to us through a gap in the treetops. Amidst the darkness at the bottom of the raven, I could just make out room shapes of our tents here and there. The only one in which light was burning was the largest tent. That six-person tent was occupied by our advisor, Mr. Ochi, along with the wood Hirosai and Sakurai-san. Why you let a man stay with them? Of course, Sensei will not do anything stupid. But I think in the anime, the Sensei did do something stupid. We will see later. The daylight of the lantern projected the moments of the I heard sounds in this game. Inhabitants as shadows on the wall and an agonizing moaning leaps from inside. It was a voice like that damn soul crawling through hell. Probably Hiroka-san and her fractured legs. When Kazuki went to check on half the dinner, Hiroka-san has been bathed in greasy sweat. The entire time we went there, she kicked out a low groan and cried, never imagined coherent speech. The fractures had given rise to an agonizing fever. She had no method to cope with her suffering except to scream and moan. Knowing that we had to get her to hospital as soon as possible, I also knew that we had been placed in circumstances where we could do nothing but wait for help. Frustrated impatience boiled up inside me. The food distributed to us by the captain's order was to last 3 days, which means that at the very least she intended to have us spend 3 days here. But what was come after that? What happened if 3 days passed and no one arrived to save us? As worsening tremors of anxiety crawled their way up my spine, I shivered for reasons unrelated to the temperature of my body. Our bodies had fallen. Some of us already died, but even so, something in the core of my mind seems to be anesthetized against that truth. Now it felt truly real. That sense of numbness was what frightened me the most. What should we do? How do we survive this? No matter how frantically I tried to find answers, my mind was paralyzed, dominated by a single thought. We can't do anything here. What will be? As if rejecting the hopeless situation it had found itself in it, my brain simply refused to think. That refusal of reality may have been a common phenomenon among us that night. From some other tent in the area, I heard the incongruous sound of brightly laughing voices. That laughter grated badly on my nerves. I couldn't help but turn my head toward the sound of inner irritation. Perhaps Kazuki, sitting next to me, felt the same way. As she likewise turned her gaze towards the laughter, there was a scowl on her face. Let me hear it.
ねえ、風見さん。
和樹でいいわ。そう言ったと思うけど。
和樹。
何あまね。
あなたは今、何を考えているの？
別に何も。本を読んでいたところよ。
本？
There was nothing in Kazuki's hand. Even if there had somehow been a book there, it would have been impossible to read in the darkness.
あなたにはまだ言ってなかったかしら。私ね、一度見た本の内容を絵として頭に記憶しておいて、後から文字として認識することで、好きな時に読むことができるの。
Are you an expert?
ごめん、意味がわからない。どういうこと？
つまり、開いた本のページをカメラで撮影して、後でその写真を見ることで内容を読むことができる。そういえばわかりやすいかしら？私の頭の中にはまだ読んでいない本が144冊残っていたから、そのうちの1冊を読んでいたところ。
What the hell were I supposed to say to that? Could the geniuses of the world all do things like this? No, that was the wrong way to look at it. It's probably precise where you can do something so utterly removed from the capabilities of other people that you deserve to be called a genius. I was confident there was simply no way I could ever pull off something like that, no matter how well she explained it to me.
何の本を読んでいたの？
地震で倒壊した学園の中に取り残された15人の男女学生を描いたフィクションノベル。
へえ。
閉鎖空間に取り残された学生という設定が今の私たちの状況に近いし、何かの参考になるかと思って読んではみたけれど、ダメね。あまり有用な情報は得られなかったわ。
On the point of asking about the ending of that novel, I abruptly clenched my mouth shut. Even without asking, I had a rough idea. Most likely, the students in that story were wiped out. That was probably the exact reason Kazuki had vaguely described it as not particularly useful. Kazuki turned her face to me with a sleepy expression. Stiffly, well, yours morning, murmured, I'll be 10 soon. It'll be 10 soon. Your guys at any clock watch.
することもないし、そろそろ寝ましょうか。
うん。
It was certainly true that staying out any later wasn't going to accomplish anything, and just being awake with nothing to do would invite unproductive passing thoughts. I understood that, but I simply wasn't sleepy. Indifferent to my minor dilemma, Kazuki stood up immediately and opened the zipper and divided the interest of our tents.
ねえ、カズキ。
はい。
あなたは不安じゃないの？
ああ、それはいい質問ね。そんなあなたの問いにずっと前から用意しておいた答えがあるのだけれど、聞く？
うん。
バスの事故に遭うことも、こうしてあなたとペアを組むことも、そしてあなたがこの時間にその質問をすることも、私の中では全て想定内よ。
Are you an aspar? I've said 2 times already.
え？
どう？一応天才風にかっこよく決めたつもりだったのだけれど。
一応私は真面目な質問をしたつもりなんだけど。
だから私も真面目に答えたじゃない。もう寝ましょう。明日は明日できっとまた忙しくなるだろうし。
With those words, Kazuki dropped into all fours and began to burrow her way into the tents like a bear returning to its den. In the days black, I watched Kazuki rumble regularly under her skirt as she disappeared inside. I found myself alone, trying to faintly to process the meaning of her words.
なんか今のでどっと疲れが出た感じ。
Confronted with the reality of Kazami Kazuki, a girl who looked at first actually wasn't taken at all, a girl who kept her thoughts completely unreadable. I found myself feeling ridiculous in comparison, the way I dropped myself in anxiously worrying, the way I worked myself into a panic over things I had no control over. Left alone in dark and silently, I strained my ears, Hiroka's son's mourn, which ate into the heart of the listeners, and the voice of laughter with their grating the night of our danger boy had stopped for now. The occasionally rustle of trees in the winds and the voice of insects were the only sounds left to echo against the walls of rock. Please, give me the next day. I want to see the next day. Yes, the next day. The second day in the valley. Uh-oh. Another stupid song again. I hate this song very much. That morning I woke to the eerie song of the distant birds. I had burrowed into my sleeping bag and closed my eyes fully expecting to lie awake all night, but eventually I must have dozed off at some point. When I forced open my unexpected heavy eyelid, I found the interior of our cheap blue tents illuminated by the splendor of morning sun. Thankfully, the journey was with the dawn. I must have slept for at least a few hours, but the burger on my packet was no like that. If anything, I felt even more exhausted than I had been the night before. Still wrapped in my sleeping bag, I turned sideways on the top of my thin silver bag. Twisting my head towards the other side of the tent, I was surprised to find my roommate missing. Kazuki? Where could she have wandering off to? The way I sleep bag, Kazuki had usually sat on the ground and conveniently tied together in a tight roll. From the look of it, it was unlikely she just stepped out to use the bathroom. Kazuki was clearly already awake and taking out short. I crawled out outside the tent into a clear sky bright dim morning. The sheer cleared to our right and let interpret most of the sun's light. What little reached us filtered down through gaps in the thick vegetation far above. No doubt the same reason it feels oddly chilly for a summer day. Others had already emerged from their tents into the gloomy dawn. Here and there, they sat quietly on the hard stone of the ground. In addition to the dumb and mental exhaustion of the previous day, we slept in an unfamiliar environment, not the best way to get rested and refreshed. Most had barely slept at all, judging from the dark circles under their eyes.
ねえ、カズキを見なかった？
I called out to the fresh air for the neighbor tents. Ibuki Haruna sits some 3 meters away. Ibuki brushes the long bangs out of her eyes with her fingers and responded listlessly.
カズキ？ああ、 風見さんならシャベルを担いで森の方に行ったからおトイレじゃないかな。そう。
I turned towards the valley alone, as in they tangled out vegetable golf forest, but Kazuki was nowhere in sight. I did, however, happen to notice someone acting rather oddly a little way off.
ねえ、あれ何やってるのかな。そう。
It was Sakuma Minori, a third-year senior. She was a talented athlete, particularly skilled at sinking tree toys, who earned the title of scoring queen our team. At the moment, she was repeatedly a small object straight up into the air.
気になるなら自分で聞いてきたら。私、あの先輩苦手。
Moki didn't bother to lower her voice. She didn't seem to care whether her frank words might reach the ears of our senior. As a result of the last night discussion, she been spared with that very Sakuma senpai and will start sharing a time with her for the duration of our stay here. The combination seems logical enough since Ibuki and Sakuma had been sharing room as board students. But role assignments in the dorm were arbitrarily arranged for the convenience of the school. As in most boarding schools, the freshmen tend to moan about running chorus for their arrogant older roommates, while seniors complain about being expected to clean up after some clueless brat. If you're stuck living in the same room for an extended period of time, the reasonable thing would be to deal with your differences and find a way to get along. But if same things aren't that simple, particularly for girls, and the roommates who dislike each other most tend to be exactly the ones who were kept together for rooms were reassigned to the next year. It wasn't just coincidence either. From what I heard, our school deliberately tried to create awkward combinations as a sneaky way to maintain discipline. Letting friends clump together naturally leads to cliché and group attempts to skirt the rules. In turn, this can create sharp divisions between those who want peace and quiet in the door and those who want to enjoy the sun. Sometimes this will end in nasty squabble. In other words, the mixing of oil and water personality in individuals will prevent larger scale problems. Or so I heard. As someone who commuted to school, it was a bit hard for me to understand dorm politics.
佐久間先輩、さっきから何をなさってるんですか？おお、Amaneか。これだこれ。
What are you doing? Oh, you are a tomboy. Sakuma held out the small object she had been hurling with blade into the sky. Specifically, it was a cell phone. She been repeating a simple pattern and throwing it straight up with her mind, retrieving it on the way back down and then throwing it back up. On course, I hit the body of the phone with bad covered in fine cracks. She probably dropped it numerous times by now.
昨日の夜、眠る前に思いついたんだけどね。メールを送信したまま空に投げれば、うまいこと圏内に入って助けが呼べるんじゃないかなと思ってさ。
That was a stupid move, actually.
今朝からずっと試してるんだけど。よっと。
With a flew over, Sakuma launched herself into the sky once again.
それ、すごくいいアイデアじゃないですか。だろ？私もそう思ったんだけど。おっと。
Carefully catching itself as it plunged back to the earth, she played on the screen and checked the transition.
また失敗か。もう50回ぐらい投げてるけど、一度も成功しないよ。やっぱり、風見の言う通りなのかもね。
Yeah, Kazumi-san is a genius, and the episodes are here. Thank you for watching my video. No more talking. Adios and Famosa. The second day. Don't tell me it's until 14 days. What the frick?